Hi everybody, my name is Laurence Sher. Not born and bred in Zimbabwe. I come from a town on the east strand of Gauteng called Brakpan. Many of you have heard the jokes, they're true. Was a very strong, dynamic, traditional Jewish community, which unfortunately, like all the small towns, dwindled to virtually zero today. So my connection to Zimbabwe was my late dad was born in Bulawayo, as my uncle was born in Bulawayo, and my mom and dad, my mom came from Brakpan. They got married in 1960, moved straight away to Bulawayo, and then with my two oldest sisters moved to back to South Africa. My grandparents were both not born here. My grandfather came from Shaulai in Lithuania, and I think he was born in 1911, somewhere around there, and came to Zimbabwe in 1935. The main reason for coming to Zimbabwe at that time was South Africa had a quota, and you couldn't just go there as a Jew. So the plan was, I think, as many came to Zimbabwe, and after a year we're going to try go to South Africa, but life was good and there was no reason to leave. I don't think he had a real profession when he came to Zimbabwe, but he became a barber. It was maybe just a skill that he picked up. And my grandmother was born in Namibia, Southwest Africa at the time, en route to South Africa. And I'm not sure how they met, but they were married in Walmer and Street Shul. So there must have been some way of getting shiddachs together. They had a plan. It definitely wasn't Facebook. And my grandfather later on became a builder and did very well in Bulawayo. Built a lot of the buildings in the 40s and 50s, and you can kind of see the patterns there of what he was involved in. And so my parents moved to South Africa, had another 3 children there, of which I'm the youngest. We were very involved. My parents were always involved in the shul in Brakpan. My dad was chairman of the Chevra Kadisha from, I think, before I was born. He roped us all in everything. I joined the Chevra Kadisha there at 16 years old out of necessity. Kind of gravitate always to small communities where you're needed. Where you're not needed, you stay out of the rush. And till my late dad passed away, he was still involved in the Chevra Kadisha there. So my late father, till the day he died, was involved in the Chevra Kadisha and HOD, everything that around Brakpan. And as my dad's brother, Brian Sher, many people will know him from Bulawayo, involved with Savion Lodge, Chevra Kadisha. So somewhere along the line, somebody instilled some community ethics and responsibility into them. I became a resident through a roundabout way in 1986 in Zimbabwe, and used to come up every 6 months to keep the residents from South Africa. I was at school in Joburg at the time, not in Brakpan, and loved it. Never knew Harare, only knew Bulawayo. It was very big Bulawayo. You know, you don't know the other side. That's where it is. And finished school, started to bring up spares and all kinds of things to Zimbabwe. Started making a living out of it, and knew that I wanted to live in Zimbabwe. Eventually, a few years down, came to Harare and realized that everything happens in Harare. As I think traditionally all the years, the capital was always where things happened. And very fortunate that I met my wife at a Joburg Soldiers Social, and she decided to marry me, and we both came here in 1994, 5 days after getting married in Brakpan, which I think we were the last wedding in Brakpan. And my parents were married in Brakpan Shul also. So that's something for us. And yeah, we moved here. We rented a house in Alex Park. And life was really interesting, great, sometimes hard, sometimes you'd have the ups, you have the downs, as I think everywhere around the world has it. Zimbabwe does have its roller coaster periods. We bought our first house in 1996, December, in Avondale, and my wife was pregnant at the time with our daughter, who's now 28, and our son was born 2 years later. So both our kids are born in Zimbabwe. And we were involved in the shul. I was at one stage chairman of the shul, involved with the Chevra Kadisha, and everything was good. Around 2003, things unfortunately really dipped dramatically in Zimbabwe. And looked around, and I wanted my kids to have a better Jewish community life. Not that there was something wrong, but that just there was nobody around. People started to leave. Where the kids used to go up to shul on a Friday night for kiddush, there were 15 kids on the bima. It became 4 kids. So the sign was there. And in 2004, we moved the family to Joburg, and I've been basically traveling every week since then, other than the first year of COVID. I've been traveling to Zimbabwe generally from a Sunday night to a Friday. We've been blessed. Everything that we have achieved, everything around us has some Zimbabwe connection. You can't separate us. My son has also moved to Zimbabwe permanently now. He has his own business, completely different, separate to mine, doing irrigation and borehole drilling on quite a big scale, but for community gardens and that, and the impact is unbelievable. Water, we can live without everything else. Water is not negotiable. I am also busy at the moment doing a trek through Africa by road, and the most shocking thing is the amount of people carrying water in jerry cans, in buckets, in anything, and the continent is not short of it. Yes, Namibia, you've got places, you've got deserts, but nobody lives there. But the most lush green everything, and people go to a bush pump for water. So water's life, and that's where it is. Life has been very good to us, Zimbabwe. I can't say anything bad. There are amazing improvements that are happening in the country. And it's very hard sometimes when you're here and you're in your little environment, it does seem monotonous. It does seem, oh, we haven't had this, we haven't had water, we haven't had, we've got potholes, whatever it is. But there are some improvements. The government is infrastructure orientated. They realize that we need the infrastructure for the economy to grow, for people to have jobs. It is changing. I don't see myself going off the continent to live anywhere else, and we're very committed to Zimbabwe, our whole family. My kids, although they had very few years here as children, when somebody used to say, "Where's home?" they say Zimbabwe. They didn't say, "No, I live in Glen Hazel or I live in Waverley. I'm going home, I'm going to Zimbabwe." And that's, even the few years that they had, it's just something that's different. And you can see Zimbabwean kids wherever you go. There's something that people get from here, the culture and everything. One thing I just want to just highlight to people, I've come across a few people living that left 20, 50 years, whatever ago. And there's some bits and pieces of properties and that here, and that's how they haven't been getting rentals or whatever. Property is very valuable in Zimbabwe today. Maybe not the same as New York or whatever, but the properties have changed in value. If you have properties, and I'm not the buyer, come, look, meet 5 agents, look at your accountants. Unfortunately, the fees can swallow whatever it is. Legally, if you live outside, you can take the money out through the right channels, through Reserve Bank. You get approvals, whether you're selling, whether you're renting, whatever it is. But don't write them off as zero because you haven't been earning. Look at what is really going on the ground. Yeah, and that's it. I would love to see our community grow a little bit, but unfortunately, I think I don't see the gold rush for people to come with young families and that here. There are quite a few Jewish young people that have come back and whatever, but not to the volume that build a community again. But there are some very committed people to seeing that the 2 shuls are maintained, that the doors are open. If somebody's got a yahrzeit, they'll try to put together a minyan, whatever it is, the Chevra Kadisha, the guys that run the Chevra Kadisha, Bertie, everything, the commitment is there. You've got a small committee on both shuls. They're committed to see that they don't dissolve to nothing. And yeah, that's my main thing. So as small as the community is today, the infrastructure remains. There's a Sephardi shul, there's the Harare Hebrew congregation, Bulawayo has the Sinai and their shul going, Bulawayo has Carmel School, we have Sharon School here. They both have Jewish identity, which is unique in an environment where there aren't Jewish kids. But that strength and understanding of Jewish tradition and things is really valuable. Life is still very, very good here. We often have people come and visit that left many years ago, that maybe were never born here, but parents came, and they look and they look at opportunity here. Africa has growth, huge growth potential. Don't write off Zimbabwe as an option to come and live. Healthcare, a lot of new hospitals and that are being built. A lot of doctors that qualified and spent 20, 30 years in the States or somewhere else have come back and set up practices again in Zimbabwe. That has always been a concern, you know, living here where the healthcare had dipped. And we have greenery, we have trees, we have everything, you know. I read a book once and they said, Europe, every continent is a pot. And when God created some of the continents, he forgot to take the lid off. And that's what happened in Europe. In Africa, he took the lid off and we can see the sky every day. So, yeah, there is life here. It's good. Come and see. I'm not saying don't go to Israel, but this is an option.